it feels like a great group. And I just wanted to say thank you again for being here on behalf of Forbes and Gyro. We're really pleased to have you, and I'm excited to talk about this topic. It's actually something that's of interest to me more than most, and that's this issue of talent, because to me it just feels like with all the rapid changes taking place in advertising and marketing, it is really causing this great challenge to have the absolute right people on board with you to accomplish your goals. So I think just to kind of kick things off, that's my first question, which is what are your specific marketing goals right now, and what talent have you identified as really needing to have?
What I'm looking for in terms of a team and what's expected of me is a team that can really drive top-line revenue, that can be strategic, project-oriented, and can work with virtual teams. So to be able to hand off something to someone, and in the days of craft, you'd hand off something to an assistant brand manager, and they'd go off and run with it, and they'd come back a week or two later, here's my consumption exercise, and here's what's going to happen to Jell-O in Utah because there's so many kids and all this, and that just happens, right? And so that's not a question. They go off and do that, and we've got the training, and you have all the training and the rest of it, and now no one's trained. We demand things 24/7. We're highly matrix. We're international. We're global. No one's looking over your shoulder, but yeah, you need to produce these things. Where's the ROI, especially for marketing, and all those kinds of things that are going on? So it's trying to find a talent pool and to develop a talent pool of individuals who are self-motivated, disciplined, strategic, team players, can lead projects, work in a highly matrix environment, keep a positive attitude,
I got some work to do.
And by the way, your boss says, "Oh, in this economy, I don't have to pay him that much," Yeah. And so those are that as a backdrop, and to get the conversation started. Those are some of the things that I'm finding.
Okay, big challenge.
Yeah.
So I'll build on that and that ROI concept. So I'm with a very fast-growing SaaS software and services organization, Savo, and I come out of Motorola, which is a pretty dynamic and changing technology company over time, but now I'm in a smaller organization, right, and definitely looking to build a group that's going to help the company grow. And the one nice thing about it is that there's a big expectation of marketing as a very strategic function, moving from a comms-centric kind of view to a very much of a, what are you going to do to drive value? And the stress that's on me as an individual, as CMO, is definitely what's the bag that I'm carrying now, which is with the pipeline growth, bringing that in. And so the individuals and the talent that I'm looking to bring on the team then have got to have that sensibility. This is about growth, and it's about driving demand and partnering with sales.
Define roles differently then, right?
Yeah, right.
So,
it's important.
Is it a job, or is it an initiative, or is it a project? Mm-hmm. And how do we match those things up to optimize your talent you have and get the things done to move the top line as well?
I think it also is about how when I think of my organization, we have tentacles to every part of the business. And I just hired a new senior brand manager, and I put her, poor thing, she actually accepted the job, but I put her through 16 interviews because I wanted her.
Well, you work at Corn Ferry, so.
But my point is that I had her meet with the IP team and the IT team and the sales team and every other team, at least a representative that she would be interfacing with, because it was she was interviewing us as much as we were interviewing her, and I wanted her to feel confident that she knew what she was getting into, what kind of culture we had, who were the people that she would be interfacing with, and it took a long time, but from a marketing, there are arguably few functions within an organization that touch every part of it like we do.
Right. So I think actually, I want to build on a point because I made a few notes here as you were making fun of me.
To me, I was impressed.
To me, it's marketer as influencer, right? That is a huge role that we play today, is marketer as influencer. Influencer internal, across the organization, across disciplines, across functions, to different customer segments. It is a massive influence role.
I always have the same question. I talk to the CEOs, the CMOs, said, so, yeah, I understand your product is great, and distribution is fantastic and your price policy is fantastic and everything is good, but why are you doing this? Why are you doing all this? What's the story behind this? And then they tell you sometimes a story you can believe. And I always put myself as if that person were hiring me. And if he doesn't convince me, I said, I'm not buying it. Let's build a story. Let's do something. So at the end of the day, a soul is a story. At the end of the day. And I think people buy into stories, and the deeper the story, the more emotional and more intimate the story, the better the culture will be.
Because I see a lot of, CEOs that just want to buy advertising.
Yeah.
What they expect out of marketing is more sales from better promotions. And I hear everybody talk about these big jobs, and I wonder if I was sitting talking with the rest of the executives if that's how they would define the marketing job, because I think that's one of the talent problems.
Yeah.
Is the talent comes in and they hear all these things, and then they hit the business, and the business really could care less what they have to say.
Well, I will tell you that the gyro view is that you probably wouldn't expect to hear this from us, but more advertising probably isn't always the answer.
Right.
And
only one of the
that we're in
focus.
a period of such incessant messaging that people have just been battered numb.
Throughout a lot of this conversation, we're talking a lot about purpose, right, and culture, which are very long-term, heavy lifting, tough to develop items. But yet, we're living in this short term, got to get a result, quarterly earnings, give me something now.
Yeah.
How the hell do you balance between that?
One of the side benefits of focus on purpose is there's a lot of smart people doing research now showing correlation between financial performance and this idea of purpose. So I think it's going to get easier. I mean, there's books coming out, there's studies. It's a true correlation.
Your point's well taken, though, too. I just wanted to...
Well, it's tough, right?
It is.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to balance this talent, and you're trying to retain them, and then we got this contractors, because you got a short-term initiative, and yet you want to build this longer-term organization that's sustainable, right? So kind of you're good to great, and be able to plug people in and out.
But hopefully the things that you're doing on a short-term basis ladder,
Yeah.
right? That's the key, right? So you're building towards something. You've got, what you're talking about is leadership, and that you've got leaders who lead all around you, not just the CEO, right? And I think that's where a lot of companies fall flat. They've promoted people because they had competency in their specific cell, right? And that they're not leaders.
Yeah.
And you need all these other great ingredients, but if you have the combination, I think, of good leadership, top down, and you know where you're pointing, even if there's a lot of short-term stuff, because we're all wrapped. And the funny thing is that it requires everybody to be hands on deck because we're so short. All of us are so tight in our resources in every way, all the way up and down the line. You have to be a leader. You have to manage the short term, but you got to make sure they ladder toward the next step and the next step, all the while that you measure it. That's the thing that is the hardest is measuring it all along the way. I find those other things pale in comparison to the measurement task that goes with it, because it forces you to slow down.
In marketing, you get to leverage some of the things that come with marketing. I mean, we are known as the fun group, and so if you step in and try to, again, I come from CPG where we try to be fun or make fun of ourselves anyway. But if I took over, I work for a Fortune 500 company it's got buy troubled brands and business and turn it around. I was hired to turn around a business, and my first month we got up, we talked about what we were going to do. I've been there a year, so my State of the Union address is next week. So I could go in, I could be boring and just not dynamic, but I think the market, you talked about purpose. I borrowed the Reggie Jackson, he said, Mark, the straw that stirs the drink. I say marketing is like the straw that stirs the drink within an organization. We get all those other functions engaged. So that's what I'm trying to do next week. I can give my brand plans to just a little piece of the company, but I invite the whole organization in and say, here's what we did last year, what we did, what we said we were going to do, and then here's how we're going to make it better next year. And you bring the passion, the energy, the vigor, and that's our job. I think that's how you can transform. And then when you hire, You try to hire people that can quickly take, like you said, those insights, and put those insights into action within short-term time to bring quick skills and results.
There's so much going on. It's so dynamic that if you allow, I call it the opportunity for employees to live in multiple worlds, that there's something going on in the business, and they're allowed to come up to you and say, I heard about this, and it's interesting, and I'd like to be a part of it, and you enable them to do that. And you enable them to grow because of experiences and changes in the business, and they don't have to live in this job description or this world that initially they came into. And you find out that perhaps they are more interested and more capable of doing something that's emerging than what they're doing today, and flexing and changing people's roles based on the pace of business and what's happening in the business really allows people to change and evolve within an organization.
I think we're doing it simply because we do have a purpose. And when we bring someone in for an interview, we say this is what we stand for. The other agencies out there can't say that. They're not saying it. And so they're migrating. We're a magnet for a lot of this talent. So I know what it feels like to be the competitor who's poaching. And it's great, and it's working only because we have a purpose and something that we can clearly articulate, and they get excited about that.
Well, one of the best things I did as a marketer was go into sales for a time. I mean, because I use my sales skills a lot more than I use my marketing skills every day. Mm-hmm. I'm constantly selling people, constantly negotiating, constantly influencing. And before my first 10 years where I was a specialist marketer, I didn't know and I couldn't lead, but I had all these grand plans and strategies, but I couldn't move people from point A to point B. And that's, I tell young marketers, hey, go into sales for a time. Go learn what it takes to influence people, because that's what you're going to do for the rest of your career.
I think there's an interesting element that comes out of sales, even though in packaged goods, which is my background, it's kind of like your rite of passage. You have to pass through sales. But there's an attribute that I think needs to be in marketing people, which is people that like to win, people that like to deliver results, and people that are energized by change. And so that goes beyond what's on their resume. It's just an inherent attribute that they have to have, especially in rapidly changing marketplaces and so forth and so on like that.
Fortunately for me, I did bankrupt myself. I got money, I got VC when the internet was going to rule the world back in 2000, 2001, and I couldn't sell my way out of a paper bag, so I bankrupted myself. All I could do was market it, though. Boy, it was great.
I hate to do this because clearly this could go on for another 2 hours. But I'm mindful of time, and we promised we'd get you out by 9. It's already 9:30, so that's a sign of a good discussion, I guess. So thank you, everybody, for being here. This was a great opportunity to share some best practices, and I hope you all benefited from it.
Thanks,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.